Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Weird Frontiers role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this Weird West Dungeon Crawl Classics style of role-playing game, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to take a look at the two remaining classes that are included in this core rulebook, the Sin Eater and the Tommyknocker. Let's start with the Sin Eater. You're a walking, talking, breathing piece to a puzzle that confounds those who dare to think outside the pages of the good book. You'd surely find yourself at the business end of a rope should you enlighten the good folks as to what happens when they draw their last breath. Just like every soul that passes over, yours began in its final journey amidst the blood wreaths along the river Styx, and as fate would have it, your ferryman arrived, but not to take you to heaven or hell. You were worthy, chosen by Charon himself, to shepherd souls across the treacherous waters of the river Styx, finding the shores of whatever afterlife the soul earned whilst still amongst the living. When the events of the 7 days of night hit the land of the living, multitudes of souls found their journey to the underworld cut short, trapped to wander the spirit world. This sudden influx of soul traffic could tip the scales between the living and the dead, setting an ancient prophecy in motion that could bring about the end of the world. Sensing the coming calamity, Charon has chosen you, along with a small cadre of the Brothers of the Blood Wreaths, to travel back to the lands you once walked, to shepherd lost souls and put down those that prey on them. Enacting ancient rites, your spirit finds its way to the land of the living through a suitable host, taking possession of it just as its last breath is being drawn. This ancient rite of binding not only heals the host body of all wounds, but you also retain many of the memories and skills of the deceased to better serve you on your new mission. Now, the interesting thing about the Sin Eater and the Tommyknocker is that these character classes are not exactly conventional or orthodox. They are used when one of your characters dies during the funnel. So when you lose that 0 level character, now that character has a chance to come back as a Sin Eater or a Tommyknocker. When it comes to hit points, you have a lot of hit points. You are very sturdy. Your crit die is pretty good and your fumble die is normal. When it comes to action dice, Sin Eaters use their action die for attack rolls in addition to all class related ability and skill rolls, unless stated otherwise. When it comes to luck, Sin Eaters add their current luck bonus to all navigation related rolls while in the spirit world. Concerning the path, Sin Eaters begin by walking the line, but must strive towards the path of the righteous. Charon expects Sin Eaters to follow the creed of the Ferryman, to shepherd lost souls and exact vengeance upon those who prey upon them. Sin Eaters are chosen from the ranks of Ferrymen for their strength of character and dedication to seeing each soul finding its way home. Concerning your signature weapons, Sin Eaters are chosen from various time periods in history. This can lead to a vast selection of weapons that the Sin Eater may choose from. To represent this, one of the two allowed signature weapons must be the character's soul aegis, which I will talk about in a few moments. Let's talk about some of the class abilities. You have Last Rites. Every Sin Eater carries an ancient tome that contains every burial rite known to man. To perform Last Rites, the spirit must be a willing participant. Typically, the spirit wishing to depart will lie prone while the Sin Eater places their obol, a symbolic coin given to every ferryman by Charon himself, in the mouth of the spirit desiring eternal rest before performing the burial rites. Once complete, the spirit appears by the shores of the river Styx. The obol returns to the Sin Eater's palm the following round. Now let's talk about the soul aegis. The Sin Eater served as a ferryman before being chosen to return to the land of the living. Ushering souls along the river Styx is an undertaking filled to the brim with peril. Every ferryman is known to carry the weapon they wielded at the time of their first death. The weapon becomes a symbol that identifies each among their brothers and sisters in the underworld, and is used to help protect the souls shepherded along the perilous shores of the dark waters. The soul aegis returns to the surface with the ferryman as they assume their new role as a Sin Eater, as the weapon is entwined with the Sin Eater's soul. A Soul Aegis may be a melee or a missile weapon, but each Soul Aegis has a few special properties. The Soul Aegis can never be permanently destroyed. Should the weapon ever be broken, it instantly crumbles to ash, only to appear whole again, strapped or holstered to its owner's side on the next rising of the moon. As the weapon is directly linked to the Sin Eater's soul, the weapon can never become lost. Should the weapon be stolen or somehow separated from the owner, the Sin Eater will instinctively know the direction and distance to the weapon. The Soul Aegis becomes deadlier the closer it gets to the underworld. While physically in the spirit world, the Soul Aegis scores a critical hit on a natural 19 to 20. Should the weapon be wielded in the deepest parts of the spirit world, the far, the critical hit range increases. It doesn't take long for a wayward soul trapped in the spirit world to catch wind of the legendary weapon and the vengeful shepherd wielding it. Creatures in the spirit world, that is, the undead, actively avoid the dreadful weapon and suffer a penalty to all melee attack rolls that target the Sin Eater. While the weapon is far deadlier in the spirit world, it still carries some of its lethality when brandished in the lands of the living. Undead, demons, devils, spirits, and creatures not native to the earth can all be attacked and take normal damage from the Soul Aegis, even if a magical weapon would normally be needed. In addition, the weapon attacks these creatures at a bonus. Now this is a really cool feature. You have the Ferryman's coin. Charon marks the induction of each ferryman by endowing them with an ancient copper coin called an obol. In ages past, a copper coin was often left in or on the mouth of the deceased to pay a ferryman for transportation to the afterlife. Sin Eaters use the coin to perform many of their duties, including performing last rites on spirits sent to the river Styx to begin their journey to the afterlife. Sending a soul to its proper resting place imbues the coin with a sliver of each soul it transports in this way, charging the coin with a small boon, as a gesture of thanks to the shepherd. The coin may hold one charge per level of the Sin Eater and can be used to heal or to get bonuses to saves. Then we have Sidestep. This costs points of temporary personality. The spirit world is normally reserved for the restless dead that have failed to cross over into the afterlife for whatever reason. The Sin Eater has the innate ability to cross the veil that divides the living from the dead, physically able to step into a land filled to the brim with restless spirits seeking aid to help them find passage to the afterlife. Then we have river rites. Ferrymen all know a set of rites, taught to them by Charon himself. The rites serve to protect and aid the shepherd as they usher their precious cargo to the afterlife. These rites also serve the Sin Eater well with their mission in the land of the living. Let's talk about some of these rites. You have Corvus Corax. Ferrymen gliding the dark waters of the river Styx often find themselves at odds with creatures that would prefer the shepherd leave their charge on the banks to be eaten. Allies are few and far between, though Stygian ravens are known for the benevolent nature towards the ferrymen. Corvus Corax instantly summons a protective flock of the creatures to offer aid and sow confusion amongst the foes of the Sin Eater. When it comes to manifestation, maybe the Sin Eaters links their obol high into the air, allowing the ancient coin to serve as a focus for the rite, where it hangs mid-air, piercing the veil of reality and allowing the summoned raven's passage into the land of the living. Or perhaps the Sin Eater traces a flaming circle in the air that serves as a portal to the abyss. Flames crackle and pop as the summoned ravens burst forth, ready to aid the ferryman. There could be some terrible consequences, however. The Sin Eater doubles over as some maleficent creature from the banks of the river Styx intercepts the spent energies of the rite, infecting the arcane energies with visions of doom and despair before sending them back to the source. Or perhaps avian minds cannot comprehend the request of the ferryman, and a maddening cacophony of shrieks and caws pierces their mind, forcing the Sin Eater to immediately pass a fortitude save or pass out from the oral feedback. Then we have Shadow Walk. The river Styx is known for its countless channels. The dark waters transport a newly passed spirit to the whatever hereafter they are deemed worthy of, that matches their spiritual beliefs. The tributaries are known to be laden with sinister creatures, plotting the demise of ferrymen and their precious cargo. Shadow Walk is one rite used to circumvent these dangers, using shadows to shroud and transport the Sin Eater. When it comes to manifestation, maybe the clothes of the Sin Eater begin to animate, becoming inky pools of darkness that stretch and join with areas of natural shadow. Or perhaps the Sin Eater becomes a being composed of pure shadow and gains a bonus to concealment rolls while the rite is in effect. When it comes to backlash, maybe the Sin Eater is sucked into the nearest shadow where they remain, helpless for 1d4 rounds before being released. Or perhaps a wandering shadow senses the use of the rite and uses it as a means to enter the land of the living, stalking and attacking the Sin Eater during some point in the next 1d30 days. And these are just a couple of rites, but they give you a good idea about the powers of the Sin Eater. Next we have the Tommyknocker. You were never known as a lucky fella, so it was no surprise to family and friends that you found an untimely demise during the 7 days of night. What did surprise them was the day you rose from the pine box in your Sunday best and told the preacher you'd be taking a rain check on that eulogy until you took care of some unfinished business. Now you find yourself a walking corpse. Breathing ain't on the to-do list anymore, and a belly full of lead won't slow you down much. When it comes to hit points, Tommyknockers have the highest amount of hit points in the game, so this is a perfect tank. When it comes to crit die, it's pretty good. Your fumble die is normal. Concerning your action die, Tommyknockers use their action die for attack rolls in addition to all class related ability and skill rolls unless otherwise noted. When it comes to luck, Tommyknockers add their current luck bonus to fortitude saves. Concerning your path, Tommyknockers begin by walking the line, but often veer towards the path of the damned, as they reanimate with unfinished business and don't give an owl's hoot about anyone that gets in the way. Concerning your signature weapon, Tommyknockers return from the spirit world with supernatural strength. They prefer melee weapons that leave a permanent mark on those foolish enough to cross their path. When it comes to class abilities, you have things such as Beat with the Ugly Stick. Blood no longer flows through the Tommyknockers' veins, and as a result, they acquire a corpse-like visage considered disturbing to most, including to animals. The Tommyknocker suffers a penalty to all initial reaction rolls. Then you have Dark Inheritance. The Tommyknocker is a bit of an enigma, as the Walking Worm farm has found a way to stave off heading to the afterlife by sheer stubborn willpower. In most cases, the journey through the near and the deepest reaches of the far is cut short. Their soul is pulled back to the lifeless body for one last jaunt in the land of the living. The journey back to one's body takes the Tommyknocker down the back roads of the spirit world, with one of those paths running right through a maelstrom filled with the lost souls the storm has devoured. Mother Maw, as her offspring lovingly call her, serves as a twisted battery of negative energy that gives the spark of life to all things undead. Each creature, from the lowest shambling deadpoke to the terrifying grave wraiths, are eternally tethered to this raging storm. The Tommyknocker is also charged and marked by Mother Maw, like their undead kin, but the deadhead is just too stubborn to give in to the twisted urges to end life and gnaw on Granny's liver. The Tommyknocker instead serves as an anomaly that can tap into the storm and temporarily borrow abilities of their twisted cousins. To use Dark Inheritance, the Tommyknocker must spend 1 point of temporary personality to represent the Tommyknocker's use of willpower to harness and control the channeled ability. Each ability brings a sliver of darkness with it, often changing the appearance of the Tommyknocker and leaving them with a temptation they must resist while the ability is manifested. Powers do not stack. However, current powers may be dismissed in order to channel a new one. Many of the creatures channeled are not ones seen on the living side of the veil. Let's talk about some of these inheritance powers. You could channel the power of the Banshee, obtaining the wail of this legendary creature. You could obtain the paralyzing venom of the ghouls. Perhaps you will call upon the power of shadows and wraiths, obtaining the ability of melding with shadows or becoming immune to normal weapons. But each of these extraordinary powers comes with a specific curse. Perhaps you will develop a taste for living flesh, too powerful to resist, to the point that you will end up attacking, literally eating your allies. Or maybe you will be cursed with feelings of oblivion and loss, and you will end up paralyzed unless you pass a save. Now, when it comes to other features, you have Stitch It Up. Tommyknockers aren't capable of healing wounds naturally or by magical means. Instead, they must manually repair damage suffered during adventuring. Cuts must be stitched up, breaks set, holes plugged, etc. For each hour spent repairing wounds, the Tommyknocker regains 1 hit dice in hit points. Allies wishing to aid the Tommyknocker have the time normally required to make repairs, as long as they have medically related occupations. Then you have Tough as Nails. Returning from the grave is no small feat, and the Tommyknocker finds their return comes complete with a new bag of tricks, including the inability to feel pain. The walking corpse shrugs off all but the worst of wounds. All damage inflicted on the Tommyknocker suffers a penalty, that is, it is reduced, and they do not suffer critical hits. The damage rolled with a critical strike is still taken, but no critical hit chart is rolled on for further effects. The downside to riding a stiff corpse is the shambling gait caused by the rigor in your joints. This can mostly be disguised as an old wound to a leg, but it reduces initiative rolls. And these are just some of the features of the Tommyknocker. This concludes this part of the review. As you can see, these are very interesting classes. The perfect character classes, so that the players don't feel too bad when they suffer some casualties during the funnel. However, I would put some restrictions upon this, because otherwise the loss of a character wouldn't feel too bad. It would take away from the spirit of the Dungeon Crawl Classics style of gaming, so I would recommend that only 1 or 2 of the characters that have died in the funnel are given a chance to come back as Sin Eaters or Tommyknockers. But it all depends on how you want to run the game, of course. Now, when it comes to their mechanical utility, I think the Tommyknocker is an excellent tank. When it comes to saving spells or healing abilities or items, if you want a tank that can constantly take some damage and you can spend some time healing that tank without spending resources of the party, this is the perfect class for that job. And when it comes to the Sin Eater, he looks like a damage dealer or a support sort of character, so definitely very useful, especially when going into the lands of the dead, when crossing the veil to take on a powerful enemy over there, or looking for some information or a particularly difficult to find artifact that can only be obtained in those shadowy lands. Thank you for watching this part of the review. In the next part we are going to take a look at the rules of this core book. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.